2006 was not exactly a quiet year for gaming. Rockstar was still printing money with Grand Theft Auto, bringing Liberty City stories to the PlayStation 2, pushing Vice City stories on the PSP, and preparing to trade stolen cars for schoolyard chaos with Bully. Capcom was getting ready to unleash Dead Rising, a game where you could fight zombies with lawnmowers, frying pans, and mental instability. Okami had just turned Japanese mythology into a moving watercolor painting. And then somehow that same studio turned around and dropped God Hand, a PlayStation 2 beat-em-up that was so strange and abrasive, so openly hostile to first-time players, that one major review treated it less like a game and more like a crime that needed sentencing. And yet here we are, 20 years later, still talking about it. Not because it was polished or pretty, and definitely not because it made a good first impression.
Like I give a shit.
We're still talking about God Hand because buried under some ugly textures, a difficult camera, and the PS2 era insanity is one of the deepest combat systems Capcom ever published. This was Clover Studio's final swing before the doors closed, and somehow that swing still hits harder than most modern action games.
Find out for yourself.
Before God Hand was a game, Clover Studio was an experiment. Capcom created Clover in 2004 as a separate development studio. The name Clover was tied to the phrase creativity lover, which sounds like the kind of corporate slogan that should be printed on a mug and handed to someone seconds before layoffs. Maybe that was a bad omen. But in Clover's case, it actually meant something. This studio made games that had personality leaking out of the walls. Beautiful Joe was a stylish side-scrolling superhero fever dream. Okami was a mythological adventure painted like living ink. And God Hand was what happens when someone gives Shinji Mikami a budget, a deadline, and apparently no supervision. Mikami is best known as a major creative force behind Resident Evil, while Atsushi Inaba would later be connected to the lineage that led to Platinum Games, the studio associated with games like Vanquish and Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. Now that's important because when you play God Hand, you can feel the DNA. Not the polish. Definitely not the polish. God Hand has the polish of a brick thrown through a saloon window.
I'm a brick!
But the attitude is there. The aggression, the challenge, and the belief that action games should not play themselves while you occasionally press a button and feel involved. God Hand is not interested in cinematic hand-holding. It does not want to be your friend. It wants to see if you can fight. That is why the game feels so strange today. It was built during that late PlayStation 2 period when games were becoming more cinematic, accessible, refined, and more market-conscious. And God Hand responds to that entire trend by elbow-dropping common sense from the top rope. It is Clover Studio making exactly the game it wanted to make, even if the market looked at it and said, "No thanks, I'll be over here in the corner picking something else." And unfortunately, the market won. Clover was dissolved and the team was scattered. Now, God Hand's story is very simple. You play as Gene, a drifter with a stupidly cool jacket, and the general attitude of a man who has been punched so many times that pain is now just background noise. At the start of the game, Gene gets his right arm cut off by demons. Bad news. Then he wakes up with the legendary God Hand attached to his body. Good news. Then he discovers every demon, thug, freak, and professional weirdo in the area wants to kill him for it. Bad news again. But he is traveling with Olivia, the last guardian of the God Hand's power, who technically saves him, but also spends most of the game treating him like a divine errand boy.
I just about died because of you.
Gene complains, Olivia demands, Gene gets beaten half to death. Olivia acts like this is character building. It's a beautiful relationship, assuming your definition of beauty includes emotional blackmail and blunt force trauma.
What the hell? Huh? Check your back, smartass.
Son of a bitch. Damn it, Olivia!
The villains are part of a demonic group trying to revive an ancient evil named Angra, and Gene's God Hand is central to stopping them. Now that sounds serious, but the game is not. God Hand's cast includes a demon Elvis, a vampire-looking weirdo, a dominatrix demon, a luchador gorilla,
Wait, you're not a human, are you?
Power Ranger parody villains, and a collection of thugs who look like they all got dressed in the dark at a rejected anime convention. The story is not deep, but it is memorable. It feels like the Fist of the North Star, Yakuza, and spaghetti westerns, as well as a PlayStation 2 tech demo, got drunk together and started writing boss introductions on napkins.
Shut up, fat ass!
And honestly, to me, that is part of the appeal. God Hand does not waste time trying to convince you that its world makes sense. It simply presents the next idiot and lets Gene punch him until the plot continues.
I bet you're not really popular in hell!
Now, the first time you actually control God Hand, there is a very good chance your brain will reject it. Gene does not move like a normal action game protagonist. He moves with tank controls. The camera is locked behind him. That feels familiar. Where have I seen that before? The right stick, which most players expect to control the camera, is not the camera. The right stick is actually your dodge. Pressing up on the stick ducks, left and right is a weave, and down initiates a backflip. Now this feels wrong at first. You'll try to turn the camera and you will fail. You'll try to fight 3 enemies at once and you'll get hit from the side. You'll say something like, "This camera is terrible." God Hand is built around the idea that you should not be managing a camera in combat. You should be managing your body. The right stick is dedicated entirely to evasion, which means dodging is instant, precise, and always available. That choice makes the combat feel less like a normal 3D brawler and more like an insane boxing game where everyone brought knives and nobody read the rules.
Sweet!
The first few minutes are basically the game asking, are you willing to relearn how action games work? If the answer is no, God Hand does not care. It will not beg you to stay, and it won't smooth itself out. It will not give you a cinematic tutorial where Gene slowly climbs a wall while Olivia explains the jump button for 6 minutes. It gives you some thugs, a dusty street, a locked camera, and a kick in the mouth. Welcome to God Hand. The controls are the reason God Hand feels terrible at first. They're also the reason God Hand becomes brilliant later. Gene is stiff when moving around the world, but incredibly responsive when fighting. That distinction matters because outside of combat, he feels like a man trying to parallel park a human body. Inside of combat, once you understand the rhythm, he becomes shockingly precise. The right stick dodge system is the key. You are slipping attacks, ducking high strikes, weaving around punches, backflipping away from low attacks and crowd pressure. It gives every fight a close-range physicality that still feels unusual. Most third-person action games are about distance and spectacle. God Hand is about inches. An enemy swings, you duck. You hear the dodge, the crowd cheers, and time almost seems to freeze in your head. And then you hear a whisper, "Now, my precious." That feedback loop is addictive. The game starts out feeling awkward because it's asking you to unlearn habits. Once you do, the awkwardness becomes tension. The limited camera makes you aware of enemies around you. The tank controls make positioning deliberate. The game uses a radar system to compensate, a little top-down minimap that shows enemy positions. But that's like putting a band-aid on a gunshot wound if you're trying to play this like a conventional action game.
Just a flesh wound.
But the core idea works. God Hand sacrifices comfort to create focus. You are free to dodge in any direction at any moment, with no animation lockout, because the game isn't wasting a single input on camera management. All of it exists to make a dodge system work with the fluidity of a boxing sim. The combat in God Hand is not a combat system, it's a combat engine. You carry no weapons besides what you find on each level, and otherwise you have fists and feet. As you progress, you'll find there are over 100 unlockable techniques that can be found as you play or purchase from the store between levels. You can use those moves in a completely free-form combo string. You can assign any move you possess to the square, the triangle, the cross buttons, and make variations with the downward motion on the joystick as well. You can also build your own combo off of a continued press of the square button. You can redesign your entire martial arts style between every single combat encounter. You can guard break enemies, launch them into the air, juggle them with follow-up strikes, and if you can daze an enemy with stars around their head or get them close to no health so their face turns blue, you can hit circle for a context-sensitive pummel. Female enemies get one disciplinary option.
What you saying? What you saying, huh? That's what I'm talking about.
Wow.
And then there's the God Hand itself. As you fight, your tension gauge fills. You pop R2 and Gene's arm warps into a divine weapon. He becomes invincible, his attacks are blindingly fast and unblockable, and enemies crumple.
But wait! There's more!
Because picking up cards during your fights fills up your roulette wheel, which triggers when you smack the right trigger instead. In this state, everything goes slow motion and you get to choose from a selection of every roulette move you have equipped. This can be anything from a ball buster, head slicer, 100-punch combo, or even a dragon kick that sends your enemies flying out of the solar system. As a word of caution though, ball buster doesn't work on women, robots, or one of the first two bosses, because apparently he lost his in the war.
He's such a sexy man. Just my type.
I'm not that kind of guy.
Buried in the left side of the HUD is a vertical bar numbered 1 through 3 and a final level simply labeled Die. Now this is one of the most brilliant, under-discussed difficulty systems in game design history. The bar fluctuates in real time based on your performance. If you land hits, dodge flawlessly, taunt your enemies, the meter climbs. You get a roar from an invisible crowd when you move up a level. Take damage or fumble, and you get a boo from an invisible crowd as your level falls. Play well and the game gets harder. Play poorly and it eases off. This is the game dynamically calibrating itself to your skill level moment to moment, without ever interrupting the flow of combat. It's the system that earlier Resident Evil games had, and even modern games like Resident Evil 4 Remake have tried to emulate. God Hand was doing it on the PlayStation 2. It means that every encounter is a negotiation. You can push your luck for better rewards, higher difficulty means more money and reward drops, or you can dial it back. You can even grovel to enemies, pressing a taunt button that makes Gene beg. Now between levels, you enter a hub area with a shop, a casino, and a training area. Money earned from combat buys you new techniques, guard breaks, launchers, juggle starters, evade upgrades. The shop is your build crafting screen. The casino is a strange inclusion, a way to gamble for more money, rare techniques, roulette wheel abilities. After a certain point in the story, you can also start gambling on poison chihuahuas. This is a very easy way to quickly lose all of your money or make back 20 times your original bet if you know what you're doing. The training arena lets you test your loadout against a wooden sparring partner, and throughout the levels, there are demon fairies that pop up so you can tackle optional challenge fights that reward cash and hone your skills. Masafumi Takada, the composer behind Killer 7 and later the Danganronpa series, crafted a soundtrack that defies categorization. The combat music even dynamically shifts, underscoring tension and release. But the numbers tell a story that Clover didn't live to hear. God Hand sold fewer than 200,000 copies worldwide. It was a financial disaster, the final nail in a coffin already sealed by Okami's own underperformance. And God Hand remains trapped on the PlayStation 2, a digital ghost available mostly through emulation. So what would I say has aged well with this game? Well, in my opinion, the combat system is peerless. To my knowledge, no 3D brawler released since has matched the depth, the customizability, or the sheer visceral satisfaction of God Hand's fighting engine. The dynamic difficulty system remains a gold standard, and the soundtrack from Masafumi Takada is timeless. This game has a fairly lengthy playtime as well, averaging around 13 hours for a casual playthrough, and close to 20 if you want to complete and get everything. Then some of the things that have aged poorly are the tank controls and the fixed camera, but they're an acquired taste, and acquiring that taste requires a level of patience. Clover Studio was a 3-year experiment in creative freedom that the market rejected. Shinji Mikami later told Edge magazine that he was given too much freedom to make the game exactly as he wanted. This is a game that received a 3 out of 10 from IGN, a review score that has become infamous in retrospect. In 2010, that same outlet placed it on their list of the top 100 PlayStation 2 games of all time. That's the arc of this game in a microcosm, and the quality of IGN's rating system.
It is a little something for everyone.
Some of the original reviewers clearly couldn't handle it, and for that reason, Imagine Babies still holds a higher score on IGN than God Hand. God Hand was misunderstood on arrival, dismissed by critics who evaluated it against the conventions it was deliberately rejecting, and then slowly rebuilt by a community of players who were willing to meet it on its own terms. It's a cult classic because it's a game that demands you change how you think about action games. Every design choice, from the fixed camera to the tank controls to the dynamic difficulty, is coherent. It all serves a singular vision: to make you feel like a martial arts master in a world that does not care if you live or die. And for those who have the patience to break through its brutal exterior, it's one of the most satisfying action games ever created. God Hand is a game that refused to compromise. From a studio that was about to disappear, directed by a man who would later say without hesitation, if he could bring back any game he's ever made, it would be this one. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. And I'm curious, let me know in the comments, have you played this game before? Maybe this is your first time hearing about it. Maybe you knew this was a cult classic already. This really is a hidden gem, and I've enjoyed my time with it immensely. If you like beat 'em ups, I would highly recommend this game. So don't forget to hit that like button, hit subscribe if you want to get more content like this, and I'll see you next time.